I think, than anybody I can put a name to promote our sport.
The archer who owns all the world records, John Demmer III.
You know, the more difficult a thing is, the more important the mental game becomes.
I didn't eat any supper yet either. How about you guys? Did you guys eat yet?
I didn't eat
Oh,
that.
you know,
I got some crunch berries.
Oh, yeah.
Grayson Barlow.
It's like me taking 3 or 4 years off your eyes just because I weakened that prescription in the shooting eye.
And don't put everything into my shot that I should, that I get a lot of drop on those heavy arrows. It's dropping all the way down. He said, well, you might want to think about going to a lighter arrow and string walking. And that's what got that started. So,
yeah, or the series of talk things that we do, you know, that I do.
For your new
Yeah,
YouTube page, I should say.
Yeah.
Look at you,
yeah,
Larry. We
YouTube
are
page.
recording, and look at you for coming into the 21st century of social media and exposure
Yeah.
for your
YouTube channel. Wow.
YouTube channel.
Crazy.
Yeah, that's a step in the right direction. Look at that.
That's like being on the surfboard hanging 10.
I just did like a Google search, or well, not a Google search, a YouTube search for your name and archery, and it was like there's just Outdoor Life, Lancaster Archery. There's dozens of videos from Outdoor Life, Peterson's bow hunting. They just pop up, boom, 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 boom.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I did. I think for Outdoor Life, I did like 19 things. We did a bunch.
I remember when those first came
here,
out.
and we did a bunch of topics. And I had done for what else? It was up on bowhunting.net or
bowhunting.net, I think.
some time ago. Yeah, a bunch of all instructional things.
Yeah.
Yeah, not the hunting things, because I don't own a pickup truck, so I can't drive around and have somebody film me while I talk about going hunting.
No.
A pet peeve of an educator here. That doesn't.
Yeah, but you were putting out. It's funny though. You were putting out content for YouTube, Outdoor Life, etc. before cell phones and just editing and uploading from a cell phone was so easy. Like you were doing it with multiple cameras, and then they were taking that video and editing that video and putting it together.
Hard
like,
edit.
Like people don't realize it's difficult to do it as is now. I can't remember the hoops you had to jump through back then. Like this is something that's sort of foreign to me.
It took a long time. So I was doing videos for Robin Hood. It was down in Ocala, Florida, where Bernie lived, Bernie and his wife. And Randy Ulmer was there. And he was to do his first one. And he didn't have much idea how it was done. So we did one together. And we had a good time. And so the way we did it was we made up our outline and we chopped it into sections.
Yeah.
And you plot out a 2 or 3 minute section.
Yeah.
And do a little rehearsal, bantering back and forth about what things we're going to say, and have maybe a rough cue card up in front. And then the cameras would roll, it'd be at least 2 cameras. And second or third take, we would get a good 2 minute section. And then you plot out the next 2 minute section. And then the next one, and the next one. And then after that, he was able to do one on his own, 1 or 2, however many he did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen those videos too.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But anyway, so no, go ahead.
For me, it's not a problem. I've in 35 years of teaching, I did 40,000 lessons. I had a plan for almost all of this.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so planning, that came pretty naturally, learn skill. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, let's get to it. We're gonna go over sections
Second half of the
3,
book.
sections
Yeah,
4
section 3.
of this wonderful piece of archery information, planning to peak. And we're not going into grave detail about every aspect of the book because that's why you go and buy the book. But
Yes.
we're
Yes,
going
we can't
to
give it all away.
continue our last discussion. Yeah, exactly right. You don't want to give the farm away. So what Larry's going to do, we're going to pick up where we left off. We're going to continue. We're going to talk
Mhm.
about aspects and the sections of section 3, section 4, and like we were just talking about, or Larry's got a YouTube page. He has a wealth of YouTube videos out there that he's done already, not specifically Barebow related, but still archery and
Yeah,
process
it's,
related.
yeah, it's
stuff.
archery.
All archery
Pulling the
stuff.
string.
Yeah, right. And so, but watch for updates from Larry coming soon to his YouTube page. And it's probably going to include a lot more than just stuff with the book. It's going to include other stuff. So I'll be helping Larry through that process a little bit. And, so that's another archery resource for you people who are listeners of the Barebow Project to have access to information. I don't know, but Larry, maybe you just need to start your own podcast and you can just put it on a podcast too. Cause
Well,
people
you
listen
can
to
break
it.
me in. Here's a kid from the 60s reaching back to the modern generation now. That's you. And getting some help with the technology things. Because I I have the old school techniques.
Well, there's
Talk on a blackboard, man. I'm really good at that.
Yeah, blackboard.
And you ain't.
Hey, I use the blackboard. I am from a rare generation that was like, we used the blackboard and erasers and we wiped the blackboard down with sponges.
Okay.
Listen,
all right, you reach back.
We
Good.
listened to records, cassette tapes, CDs, MP3s.
Okay, so you.
Do I need to go?
So you've
That
experienced
Gen
all
X generation, like we literally, we were there for the start of the internet to what it is today, and still, like we're a very well-rounded generation of.
See, I remember when TV came.
Yeah, I can't say I remember that.
Pre-TV days,
Yeah, I
listening to
can't
the
say it.
radio.
Well, and like I said to you, I could go back to that. I could go back to
so all of those
no TV,
technologies.
no social media. Like I'm a little bit back on social media, a tiny bit, not much though. And I don't check my messenger much, like maybe once a day. It's still like it's almost like a mental health break from social media and TV's
having experienced those different gathering of information, transferring information, those different styles, you can still go back to them when they are most effective.
Right.
And like for a small group presentation where you want to engage the student, marker board and markers.
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
And you develop a concept and gather, responses from the students, etc.
Me and Demmer did the target panic discussion at the classic. You know what? Sidebar discussion or derailed discussion. Well, when we did that, you wouldn't believe how many people are like, "Oh my gosh, I can't even talk about or listen about target panic when I'm competing." Whereas barebow archers, like, we deal with it every day. Who cares?
Yeah.
But like compound and even some like Olympic recurve shooters, they're just like, oh, I don't even want to hear about it. And I'm like, it's not a disease. You don't catch it by hearing it. It's not the way it works at all. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So what that tells you about all those compounders and Olympic style shooters, they don't have a plan for their mental game. Because if they had a plan for what they're going to think, it wouldn't matter what they talk about because they're going to go execute their plan. But if they don't have a plan, My God, you just gave them, a few more things to think about in their thought lottery.
Yeah.
So
Hot lottery. I like
that's,
that.
yeah, they're insecure because they don't have a plan. So they need to read this book to get started.
Well, let's continue that discussion. That's a
Okay,
great
so
segue.
yeah, and
So section 3,
it's already-
adjusting your archery attitude.
right. We discussed forming your perspective. Got to have the right perspective, and that was, we're there to repeat.
Right.
Back to principle 1. Step 1, learn to hit the mark. Step 2, repeat step 1. So you've got to repeat. You've got to have that in your mind as you approach. And then section 2 is all the preparation things you need to do, pre-tournament, setting goals, on and on. But now having the right attitude. So I had written some articles originally for Arrow Trade magazine when it was still print on different concepts. I wrote some of these for National Junior Dream Team because we ran across issues that we were trying to teach these young teenagers to have the right attitude about their archery, and not, I guess most of them are aimed at helping the young to not be self-judgmental. They want to link their score, and adults do this, right? Result oriented. They want to link their score to who they are as a person. And so they become judgmental, self-judgmental. And really, if the arrow's a 6, on a colored target, you shoot a 6, that's just a task that you performed. And sometimes you fail at a task, like taking out the garbage. Sometimes you spill it.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't change who you are as a person. You just pick it up, put it back in the can, and set it out for the trash man. Right?
Yeah.
But yet you shoot a 6, and my God, what will everybody think of me? So having the right attitude and reading some of the chapters I have there will help you develop that right attitude. And again, most of it's to get adults and young teenagers away from the self-judgmental part of their score or their particular arrow. All right. So, so that you can, and that was evidence in the building blocks of performance in chapter 2. So who you are as a person is not dependent on any score or any particular arrow or any season and how well you did that season or didn't do. Now, if you react poorly to those things, then that is showing some weakness in your character and you need to redevelop that. But like chapter 11 is the 3 C's: commitment, composure, and confidence. All right. So first you must have commitment to practicing, learning, open mind stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And then into performing, if you take that commitment into performing, eventually you will gain composure because you have committed to your practice and it's paying off. And so while you're performing, you will eventually gain composure and perform in tournaments as you do in practice. And on occasion, even better. That's when you've become a gamer. When you can outdo your average at a tournament. And I was fortunate to do that a number of times. So now, of course, some of that in commitment was lying to myself, telling me I was really good. Telling myself, yeah, I can do this. I can beat these guys.
Yeah.
Because I'm working hard.
Yeah, it's not the first time I've heard that. Heard
Yeah.
that same thing
So,
from Jay
you know,
Bars.
it begins with a lie.
Yeah.
Well, okay, keep living it, man. All right.
Fake it till you
And
make it is what he always used to say to me.
well, it's not now. There's no fake. It's a
Well,
lot of hard work. Yeah,
I think it's just the
yeah.
term, but the notion that you got just keep telling yourself, whether you believe it or not, keep telling
Yeah.
yourself that you're
Yeah,
gonna
you're
win.
good. Yeah. Well,
You're good enough
positive
to do this.
self-talk statements.
Right.
And that was part of the preparation in section 2.
Yeah.
Okay, so then following the composure, when you are able to shoot in tournaments with composure, you will build your confidence. And confidence is saying, I will continue to do this. So yeah, I highlight the 3 C's in chapter 11. And then, chapter 12, that's maybe one of the favorite things that I wrote is about hockey coach Daryl Sutter.
Oh, okay. I
He's
was
coaching
wondering
the
what that
Flames right
reference.
now.
I was wondering
Yeah,
what
he
that
was
reference.
coaching the Kings back when I heard him respond to a commentator. It was Game 6 of Stanley Cup championships, and his team was tied and needed one more win to win the cup. And after regulation, it was tied, and they're going to the locker room, and the one sportscaster says, well, what's your team got to do to win the Stanley Cup? But Coach Sutter was not having any part of that, winning, because that's result oriented, result focused. And of course, most everybody's focused on the result, but not Coach Sutter. He says, and I quote him, it's got to be more about output than outcome. If you aren't putting out the effort, and so in that chapter, I highlight about what effort is, what your process is in hockey. And I watched my grandson in a game this morning, a 12-year-old game this morning, skating and passing. Yeah, always skating and passing, skating, putting yourself in position to make the pass or to receive the pass.
Yeah.
That
Hey,
was the process.
yeah. So just to interject, yesterday I was at my son's track and field championships, the end of the year for them, and I heard the coach from one of the other schools. Bunch of kids were getting ready for the 110 high hurdles, and they were doing some starts, and they would go over the first set of hurdles, whatever, and then they like congregated back behind the starting blocks and were just standing there talking. And I watched this coach go over, and she goes, gentlemen, and they all like look at her, so you can tell it like it was just the way their reaction was priceless. And she looks at him, she goes, either you're stretching, you're warming up, or you're competing. That's what you're doing when you're at a track meet. You should be doing one of those, not standing there watching other people warm up. I think they were watching, girls. I'm not 100% sure.
Oh no.
But the coach was like, they were just kind of like, lingering there, and the coach was like all over them. But it's the same concept no matter what sport, and even in archery. Like, if you're doing something, make it productive toward your archery goals, if that's what you want to do. Like,
yeah, well, Lanny Basham had a good quote. I listened to his audio tapes a while ago.
Yeah.
And I use this. I copied it because it was really good. I stole it. Wherever you are, be all there.
It's good.
So in my classroom, wrestlers in particular, when they had a wrestling meet, okay, during the day, during class, you could tell they weren't with it. They weren't with doing mathematics. And so I'd have to remind them, look, you can't wrestle tonight's match third period when we're doing calculus. And if you try to, you'll have yourself totally worn out your mental capabilities will be worn thin until 7 o'clock tonight when you get to rest.
Yeah.
So scrap that. Let's focus on doing calculus. Okay. And be relaxed. And yeah, so that's the thing, you know, be there, be 100% there wherever you are in whatever task you're doing. And in my language, that is present process thinking.
Yeah. Hey, for everyone who's listening and just listened to Coach Leroy say he actively listens to Laney Bassam from Mental Management Systems. We have an episode 33 I recorded with Lanny. So if you want to go back and maybe listen to a little bit more, go listen to that.
Yeah.
That's from Lanny himself. And it's worthwhile listen. But I'm just putting it out there because people are going to be listening to this and thinking about it when you're talking about it, and like and I don't know why this doesn't surprise me, but it may surprise some other people. Hearing you say that you listen to Lanny's information, and people, especially in the compound world, but people look at you as the same, you know, level of knowledge base when it comes to the sport as Lanny, but you're still pursuing knowledge.
No one knows everything.
Oh, that's for sure.
And the more I know, the more I learn, like in mathematics, the more you learn mathematics, the more you realize what you don't know and how much there is still out there to learn. And the same with coaching, whether it's teaching the physical steps or the mental. Yeah, I have some insights. I have my experiences over many years of shooting to relate, and I have my language styles, my writing, and that can convey some good information to people. But that's not all of it. So you're gonna listen to other people and hear their insights in their language. And so when we were coaching the National Junior Dream Team, and there were 3 or 4 coaches, 3 or 4 of us coaching the group of 14, let's say, first thing we told them was, you're going to have to work with all of us. All right. And we use different language.
Right.
Well, we're all trying to teach you the same process, the same skills. So if Coach Linda tells you something that you think conflicts with Coach Larry, call us together immediately and we'll straighten it out, because we're not trying to contradict each other and getting you to do 2 different things, you know, because you're at the center. You, the student, are at the center. And so we got to come together and straighten out whatever issue it is. And besides, you know, Coach Linda might say it in a way that really resonates with you and you get it. And same with me. Sometimes I did that with students.
How often did you find where you and Linda were literally saying the same thing in that situation, saying the exact same thing in 2 different ways, but it didn't register with the athlete, with the archer, until they heard it one way or the other? Did you ever come across that?
Oh yeah, there was, well, how many did we have? Did we end up with 5 coaches altogether? And we all used different talk, but sometimes Coach Jim would say it in a way, and bang, this student picked it up, and wow, great. I'm happy. I'm not jealous, but I stole what Coach Jim said if I thought it was really good, and I use it now. That's what you got to do as a coach. Yeah. Steal these things. Yeah.
I like the next one. I like the title of the next chapter too. Are you ready to move on or no?
Yeah. There are no deserves.
There are no deserves.
Yeah. Some, and you hear sportscasters saying it all the time, and I point that out in the article. Yeah, well, he's working really hard, and his scores have come up, and he deserves to win. Well, that's nice. It's nice they say that. You're headed in the right direction, but you ain't going to win it because you deserve it.
No,
You win it with the high score.
that's right.
And yeah. And sometimes that thinking about, well, I deserve this, gets you to making a bad decision about recording an arrow. You're recording it as a 10 when it's really only a 9.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Hey, hold on one second. Let that.
okay.
That's all right. No worries. No worries.
Yeah.
Yeah. No deserves. That's funny.
Yeah. So I had to
It's
write
so
that.
accurate.
There was we ran into some attitude issues in coaching a group, and so that that was my response for so that everybody could read that. All the kids could read that, and yeah. Again, it was written because of a need.
I did a video, a coffee talk, like in the summertime when I'm off work. I'll like wake up, once a week, and I'll do a live feed on Barebow Project, and it'll be random topics. Nothing. And the one I did was expectation is a score killer was basically the it ended up being a podcast episode, but it's that notion that, well, I expect that I'm going to perform the best I ever have. Expecting it is actually essentially is thinking in the future. Expecting it is, well, I'm already telling myself I'm going to be the best, instead of saying I am going to just shoot to the best of my ability right now. Because the expectation is expecting it to happen, but you're not expecting it to happen. You're
Without
focused
the work.
on the result instead of, well, how do I make it happen?
Yeah, you're not focused on the work you have to do.
Yeah,
You're focused on, well, it's just going to happen
right.
by magic, I guess. The spaceship is going to beam down and give me some special skills coming here in the next 10 arrows.
Yeah, I'm always saying
No,
shoot perfect
no,
scores
it's
for
not
the
gonna
next
happen.
3 hands.
Yeah, not going to happen. Chapter 14. Yeah, this is a pet peeve of mine. If I could get coaches in archery to eliminate one word from their vocabulary, it would be the word pressure.
The myth of pressure, chapter 14.
Yeah.
Allude on that a little bit more.
Okay, pressure in athletics occurs when you're on the basketball court and the other team, when they're defending you, is right up in your face. This is pressure. Somebody getting in your space, trying to force you to do something you wouldn't naturally do, forcing you to make a mistake. That's pressure. Or, pressure defense in football or any team sport. That's pressure. But in archery, we don't have a defender up in our face.
No.
We are an interesting
our
concept.
Best defender.
Could you see team archery? I don't.
Yeah.
And a pressure defense.
Yeah.
I have. Well, it would be a bloody scene, I think.
I would say so.
Somebody gets shot. So it doesn't exist in archery. And when you use that word pressure, it brings with it a lot of negative baggage, because you think pressure is this thing or this force that you have to overcome in order to shoot your arrow, right? And you hear announcers in so many sports, a lot of individual sports, saying, well, he's under a lot of pressure now. His country thinks that, because he won the previous 2 Olympics, he's got to win this one. So he's feeling a lot of pressure. But the announcer doesn't know what the athlete's feeling. They're making it up. And pressure seems like a great topic for announcers to expound upon. And it's BS. Right? So what I would prefer all coaches in archery to talk about is moments of high personal value. So you are now in a head-to-head matchup. You're on the podium at Lancaster Classic. This is a high value moment for you. You worked hard to be there. You should be celebrating this. You should be feeling positive about this because you worked hard to get there. Okay, and now your pulse is racing. Yep. Respiration is up. Yep. Muscles can get tense. Yep. You can start thinking about the result. Yep. But you have skills to combat all of that. So when this high value personal moment comes, you use your skills. You have a plan that utilizes these skills. You don't step up on that podium and run the thought lottery. Because yes, you're going to think something different on every shot, but yet you expect the same result. Ain't going to happen. So develop these skills, your breathing patterns, your thought patterns, your positive self-talk. You know, here's where you use it. And you build this plan and a focus map, which we're going to talk about in section 4. This is where you use those skills to aid you in this moment of high personal value. And you celebrate the moment. Yeah, you're nervous. Sure, it means something. It's important. So, yeah, that's my deal on pressure. I get pretty passionate about that.
Yeah, I've heard you talk about that before.
Yeah.
Chapter 15's got an interesting title too. The big question of aspiring athletes.
Yeah, that's we all face it. And the question builds in like 4 or 5 segments, and I work through that in the chapter.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially it has you analyzing yourself in a number of different ways, and ultimately you have to decide if you're going to make a change to become better. Because if you keep doing what you've been doing, you'll keep getting what you've been getting. And if you're tired of what you've been getting, you got to make a change.
Yeah. Right.
The one header page for one of the sections, it might be this section. It says, old ways won't open new doors.
Yeah.
And so if you keep using the old ways, you will only be able to open old doors. And the new door to getting on the podium eludes you because that takes new ways. Yeah. So, I pose that. I'm not going to say much more about that question, but every athlete needs to read that chapter.
Yeah.
And it slaps you around a little bit. I think it can nicely. I'm nice about it. But, you will face. Everybody faces this question. And every archer needs to read about that. Every athlete needs to read that chapter.
I like it.
Mm-hmm.
So the last and final section 4, engaging your mind through focus mapping.
Yeah.
I recall when you kind of, I forget where we were. We might have been at Chestnut Hill and you were showing the focus mapping.
Yes. Yeah, that was it. The time we met there.
It was early on in the focus mapping development stage. And what an amazing tool. Everyone should have access to that. Do you have, just out of curiosity, and I have not read the book yet. I was deliberately not reading. I've looked through it, but because I was going to read it and record, but then we talked and we're doing things different. So I'll end up reading it on my own. Do you have the map in the book?
The
Like
focus
your-
maps.
Yep.
Oh, yes. Yes. So what I develop is,
I'm gonna find that.
first of all, defining focus and focus types. 'Cause most people, again, coaches and athletes will say to each other, to their students, we have to stay focused. You have to keep your head in the game. All right. You got to stay on task. Well, what does that mean? Well, 15-year-old doesn't know what you mean when you say stay focused.
Yep.
All right.
There
Nor
it is.
do adults. And if you ask a coach who says to kids, stay focused, there's the focus map. That's
And it's not.
that's
It's
partially developed there.
just a partially
Uh,
developed map. Yeah, I'm not. I mean, the blank map. I don't see. Let me see. Here would be the blank version for people to see it. So
Right. Yeah.
that's your
hold
your
it
your
to the
blank.
side a little bit. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
Hold that up again.
yeah. Could you see it? Yeah. Hold on.
There. Now you got the right page. Right.
Yep.
And the center column here
Here. Go ahead.
is the steps of shooting for it.
Yep.
That's where it all begins.
Yep.
Okay. Your
So-
mental game begins with the steps of shooting for.
And these for all intents and purposes, everyone. These are the NTS steps. This is not just.
Right.
This isn't like, and regardless of what you are a fan favorite of shooting style wise, they're just, you have to give credit where credit's due. The NTS does a good job of identifying parts of the shot process, and that's just the way
Right.
you do approach these. But
Right.
when you read this
Yeah.
chapter, and I can see, I went through all of this in person with Larry.
Yes.
during a
Yeah.
training
Through,
session.
yeah.
So,
Small group presentation. Right.
this is what it's going to look like. I'm not gonna dive. I'm not gonna let you
Yeah.
analyze this thing, because you got to get the book and read it. But it gives you a really it does what the term that I use, or it clears up the thoughts in your brain and puts them on paper per se.
Right. And so as a mathematician, in all of my lessons, we used visual aids,
Oh yeah.
right? I appeal to the students' auditory learning and their visual. Okay, of course, in archery, we get to the tactile as well, hands-on bows, right? Drawing and holding. But using the visual aid here to lay out your focus map is important, because it gets the coach and the archer literally on the same page.
Yeah.
Understanding the vocabulary that they're using, like the term focus. There are at least 4 different kinds of focus that you use, and you use them all day long. And you shift between them constantly back and forth. And you need to be aware of that. And one of the ways I help people be aware of that is the signature writing exercise. So if you signed your name on a piece of paper 5 or 6 times in a row, that's using one kind of focus,
Right.
because you do that by feel.
We might
You
have
don't
touched
have to
on that
think.
last podcast. I'm not sure, but yeah.
We might have got into that. Yeah.
I think we
by
did a
feel.
little bit.
Yeah. But if you switch hands now
Mm-hmm.
and sign your name with the other hand, this is a different kind of focus. Because now you're making decisions about how to hold the pen. How do I make the first letter of my name? And my God, it looks like I'm in 3rd grade again.
Oh yeah, I remember doing this the
Yeah.
first time.
Yeah.
10
So that
years ago.
really grabs people into realizing, oh yeah, I use different kinds of focus.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So as you complete your steps of shooting for it, and write in your own steps if you don't like mine, but write the steps. So as you're doing each of those steps, what kind of focus are you using? And beginners, of course, are using a lot of this mind managed focus, this analytical focus, where you're setting your feet and looking at them. Yes, I got that done. Check. So mind manages checking things off a list. And so beginners do a lot of that. The more experienced you are, the less you do of that, but you never get away from that entirely. You can't afford to.
Right.
And I explain why that is. But at some point in time, you need to shift to feel, like signing your name. It has a smooth feel. And by golly, all those 5 and 6 signatures you signed on the page look pretty much the same.
Right.
Because with feel, you repeat at your highest level. Yeah. And you just proved it by doing the handwriting test, you see.
Mhm.
Yeah, in whatever section is that, 16, chapter 16. Yeah. But you begin with the steps. Write your own steps if you don't like mine.
Sure.
And now, my philosophy here and my teaching about the mental game is based on those steps. You look down the list of steps. One of them is more important than the others. And there's proof of that. And the most important one is that transfer of holding that, using that holding effort in your back to execute the shot. That's the most important thing you do physically. And I know that's the case because all the previous steps set that up.
Right.
They are all prep for that holding effort. Okay. So the most important physical step is also the most important mental step. So if you're executing this holding in the back to get the shot going off, and you're thinking about the arrow hitting the 10 ring, your mind and body are not in the same time zone.
No.
All right. You're thinking about something you have no control over. See, after the arrow leaves the string, do you have any control over the arrow? No, none. And stuff happens, particularly outside, right? Yeah. So thinking about the arrow hitting the 10 ring is non-productive. When you're in the process of aiming and generating that release technique, thinking about the target and the score doesn't help you. You've got to think in the present. And to help yourself the most, you better be thinking about the process that you're engaged in. Like you were when you were signing your name.
Yep.
You are aware that you are doing it, it's a feel. And so you've got to have that feel for what's going on with your holding in your back. So I developed this concept. The most important part of the mental game is also the most important part of the physical game. They've got to come together. And so the focus map, and you held one up there, the completed one.
Yeah.
It lays out what kind of focus you should have and when you should shift to feel. And it goes beyond that. Yeah, there's a completed one. It goes beyond that because we also have a column here where you plot out where you are looking with your eyes.
Mm.
That's big.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Because if
probably.
you're looking at some honey down the row here,
Well,
that ain't going to help you.
Yeah, well, or a fire truck in my case. I've talked about it numerous times
Yeah.
from Target Nationals last year during
Oh,
qualifications.
you heard a
Um,
siren.
yes, the siren on the way in, but it got to the complex, they turned it off and just came in with lights on. Well, my natural
Yeah.
inner being is I see a fire truck and my attention is no matter what's going on around me,
Right. Right.
and it is as soon, and even while I'm like coming to full draw and I'm like, oh yeah, there's a fire truck, and I'm still continuing, I was still thinking about the fire truck.
Yes.
I got to full draw, and I know that the thought in the back of my brain was like, I wonder where they're going over here. There's no
Did you
building.
shoot a red?
Oh no, it was
Red
worse
for
than
fire?
that. Yeah, that was either a 5 or a 4. That was not
Yeah.
a good arrow. And
Yeah.
then when they left, they were there for like 45 minutes, half hour, whatever. Then when they left, they weren't lights and sirens. They were just driving out. But I saw them and I was like, again.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
my immediate focus was, I wonder what they were here for.
Yeah. Right.
6,
Yeah.
shot of 6.
Right.
And there were like 3 arrows that ruined that score, that qualification score from a 598 or whatever it was. And it should have been probably like ballpark, like 620 something, 630 something.
Yeah.
And those 3 arrows were like and 2 of those 3 arrows
Were
from the damn
fire
fire
truck
truck.
arrows.
But
Yeah.
it's so true. Like your eyes, like you.
Yeah. So there's a
can't-
column for plotting where you are looking with your eyes. Yes, that's really important. And we keep them on task, right? There's a column for your breathing pattern. I recommend first that you have a breathing pattern. That's crucial to finishing the shot, right? But what is your breathing pattern? What is your natural breathing pattern? Be aware of it so that when it becomes non-standard, you can shut down your shot and get yourself back together, make a correction. And there's one column there, the far right column is for plotting the level of holding effort you have in your back.
Yes.
And there's one key takeaway from that, and that is once you start increasing the holding in your back, you never, ever give any of it away. You never go back. You never lessen it. It's got to be always on the increase.
Yeah. How many barebow shooters do we see that overdraw their
Oh,
bow, come into anchor?
Yeah, I can remember a few years ago, we talked about this. The barebow guys coming forth and back and forth and hacksawing at that anchor point. And well, what's going on in the back?
Oh, yeah, you're
Up
you're
and
losing
down,
tension.
up and down.
And I'm not saying, and I've said this before, there's people who do it well. That Erin Hia, that won the classic, the young lady, she comes forward. She knows she comes forward, something she's working on. I think you can. There's people who shoot well. Oh my gosh, Lee Wilkins, the big guy with the beard. He's got a really significant, like he draws way down here, and then it's like here, and then comes up. It's a very significant, out of the ordinary of sorts. Sorry, Lee. I love you, buddy. Not saying it in a negative connotation, but some people can make it work. You can make it work. The struggle isn't making it work at that moment. That moment you got it, it's working, you run with it. It's keeping it working year after year after year, keeping it improving.
Getting a high level of consistency.
Yeah. So
because
if people are going to say that, they're going to listen to that and they're like, oh, well, so and so shoots this way. Like, yeah, you're right, they do, and they probably shoot that way well, but not always. We're not looking for more times than not repeatable. We're looking for every time repeatable. And what do we have to do to accomplish?
Right. But, yeah. So what method is going to help you reach your peak?
Right. Every time.
Back to the title of my book,
Right. Planning the peak.
What's it going to take to get you to your peak? And so, one of the header comments, motivational statements I have there is, if you want something you've never had, you're going to have to do something you've never done.
Yeah.
And so that's my attempt to get them to try focus mapping. Just make a plan. And then no matter what the situation, you have a plan. And it generates good arrows in practice. So if you stick to your plan, you'll get good arrows when it counts. And that's what we're trying to, that's what it takes to get to your peak. So, yeah, so, well, we've covered the 4 sections here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to hash out the names of the chapters, the engaging your mind through focus mapping is the section 4, chapter 16, understanding focus shifting, 17, mapping your breathing pattern, 18, plotting your primary muscle group loading, chapter 19, mapping your attentional focus, chapter 20, focus mapping for advancing athletes, and chapter 21, your pre-start, your pre-shot and downtime routines. And then that's the book conclusion and the other stuff. But
the last chapter is last because before I could entertain doing a pre-start or pre-shot routine, you had to know what you're doing in your shot routine, right? You had to have your focus map built. And then you can plan how you're going to get there, immediately before the tournament, what are you doing? And then the last minute or two before the shot, what are you doing? So that's why that chapter comes last.
Yeah.
And, I wanted to write another section, but the publisher says, now stick to archery. The next section would have been then how to apply the focus map technique to other sports. Because I worked with 7 other sports. I worked with coaches and athletes from 7 other sports and help them develop a list of steps first. And then what their process was and how we engage in present process thinking when you're shooting the basketball or using the golf club, because they're all repetitive sports and all just like archery. Yeah. So, but that's the book.
All
Appreciate working through it here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a great way to put the information out there, tell people what's available. Like I said, I mean, you're my mentor coach from the very beginning, and and I had the pleasure of being a part of some of the information in this book.
Oh yeah,
and it has some stuff, has a lot of stuff that every archer, no matter what discipline they shoot, they need to pay attention to.
Right. Yeah. Basics of the mental game. What are the basics? What all is involved in the mental game?
Yeah.
Well, a
lot of people, and we've talked about this, Larry, a lot of people want to skip past the physical side of how to mentally prepare, and they don't. And it doesn't
again,
work.
My philosophy, again, my teaching is all about this. My book is all about this.
Yeah.
Most important part of your physical game is also the most important part of your mental game.
Yep.
The two have to come together, mind and body together in the present. That's the only way you're going to get to your peak. If your mind and body are in different time zones, you're not going to get there. You can do well at times, but you're not going to get to your peak.
It's so simple. It's so simple, but not at the same time. Yeah. But people just,
I hope
confuse it.
My ability, as a mathematician and as a mathematics educator, explains this. I hope I'm explaining this in a way that more people can understand it. And that's why I did the mental book, right? and you guys had helped me with that focus map. One of the first times I presented it. Your reactions to it, your questions, etc., gave me ideas of how to make it better. Because as a classroom teacher, you read students' eyes, their facial expressions, and when they have a question or when they're getting it and when they aren't. So, yeah.
So with that being said, where can everyone follow you, get more information about the book? Obviously we all know that there's a YouTube page now.
Yeah, YouTube page.
You find information there. I don't think you're not on Instagram, are you?
No. Nope.
Yet. I'll work on that, everyone.
Yeah. Boy, this is now. Look, I just got
One
on
step at a
this
time, one step at a
YouTube
time.
surfboard, and I'm hanging 10. Right out there. Now you want me to jump to another surfboard?
Yeah, no, you don't have to do that yet. But Larry does have a Facebook page that I know, and then your email is larry@larrywise.com, right? So
right,
people
yes,
want to inquire about coaching or working with Larry. I know Larry has some clients that he works with around the world, but right now I know California, stuff like that. So
yes, oh yeah.
So you can reach out to him.
Well, the world has gotten really small for coaching.
Yes,
and the video things, everybody has their little phone they can video, and we can do a lot that way. We can't do the best job that
for
way,
sure,
but we can do a lot, and we're getting better at doing things with the media, all the different medias. And of course I have the shopping cart up on larrywise.com, and so I'm mailing books out every day. I sign every one that I sell, and much appreciated. I like getting the information out there.
Yeah, you've
So,
been doing it a long time, and we
I like
appreciate
signing
it.
books.
I bet you do.
Yeah.
All right, Larry, thank you so much. Thanks for
Thanks
tuning
a
in.
bunch, man. Look
All
forward
right.
to working with you some more. Wonderful.
Yep. All right, see you, everybody.
Bye.